Hello and welcome to another Pie and Smith production. We're here today to preview day 7 of the PDC Darts World Championships, and we're going to have a quick look back on day 6. So we're not going to mess about, we're going to go straight into it. I'm Adam Smido Smith, that man is Matt Pieman Hill. I'm going to hand you over straight to Mr. Hill, who's going to speak about the games to take place, particularly on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, cheers, Adam. Obviously, we did our video a little bit later in the previous occasion, so we did kind of touch on it in the video that a game had already got underway as we were filming. So I will just rattle through those games. We had Dirk Telnekes was beaten 3-2 by Nick Kenny. This was a nip and tuck game, to be honest. Telnekes took the first set, Kenny clawed it back, and then we went to a decided set, and the Welshman prevailed. I thought he was good value for it, to be honest. There was a lot of nerves up on the stage, but Kenny got the job done, and the 3 sets that he won by a 3-0 scoreline, whereas the 2 that he lost were last leg deciders. So he's a worthy winner. He plays Jermaine Watamina in round 2. I think there's a lot worse seeds to be playing in round 2. Watamina, someone we talked about in our big review of the last few months as very erratic player. When he's on, he's on. He's a power scorer, much like his countryman Jeffrey Deswan, who will come on to in due course. But he can have an off day. And I like Nick Kenny. I like it. What in his interview he kind of said that the nerves had got the better of him a little bit. He'd been playing really well in the practice room, and then he just fell apart on the stage. But it's understandable. It's a big occasion for him. He got over the line. He should settle a little bit better in round 2. I wouldn't rule him out completely against Watamina. Then we saw Jason Lowe versus Dmitry Gorbanov. Now, just for a little bit of context, regular viewers will know that this was the last one of the advised 3-0 multi that's been keeping us entertained through round 1. We've had 3 winners, 1 loser, and then this morning we were greeted with 1 void after Martijn Kleermaker pulled out with coronavirus. So to give a layman's explanation of this, if Jason Lowe was to win this game 3-0, it would be a very handsome return for multiple backers. And I can only describe this as an utter disgrace how this 3-0 didn't get over the line. Thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest. You couldn't.
This is what we're all about. I know we've said this before.
You couldn't really write this. This was really quite funny.
Just before you go into it, Prime Man, just as a little bit of a context, this is the type of content you're going to get on this channel. Spectacular losers, and we warned about that before the tournament started. And then on our basically our first bet of the tournament, which was last Wednesday. I know day 1 was on Tuesday, but our first real bet was last Wednesday. Sedlacek 2-1 was 2-0 up, lost 3-2, might miss 5 match starts, blah blah blah. So yeah, but this is what we're all about. Unlucky losers. I've put up 4 bets and all of them have lost. Pieman was going pretty well. He deserves the credits for the 3-0. And then now he's going to describe how Jason Lowe failed to win 3-0 and failed to return that handsome return for Pieman and his followers.
Well, let's say we got a 5-2 winner up with Rasmus. We've got a 7-4 winner up with Max Hopp. We've got an even money shot up with Steve West. So, you know, it's looking very good at this stage. Jason Lowe doing the business is 2-0 up. Gorbanov, as expected in the preview, averaging 72. Utterly abysmal performance from the Russian, who looked completely out of his depth. And then, just as Jason Lowe has match starts in the 3rd set to close this out 3-0, end of story, he misses a couple, and Gorbanov suddenly takes out back-to-back 3-figure checkouts to force the deciding leg. We then have even more drama as the Russian suddenly turns into a machine, goes off with a 180 at the start of the leg, his first and only 180 of the entire match. And then Lowe still contrived to miss further darts before Gorbanov stumbled over the line, nicking the set, and then he was thoroughly thumped in set 4. So this small anomaly, which lasted roughly 2 minutes, has derailed the entire multiple, really. And when you add in the other loser on it was Callan Ridds, who lost 3-1, where James Bailey just won 3-1. The only set cost us on that occasion, James Bailey producing the dart of his life for roughly 3 legs of the match. So yeah. I mean, look, I don't want to dwell on it. It's been generally very successful, this 3-0, and hope somebody's enjoyed it, got some profit out of it. But you can't help but leave with a bitter taste in your mouth the way that collapsed.
So Prime Man was on the edge, was on the edge of a decent return. Jason Lowe had won set 1 3-0, set 2 3-1. He was 2-0 up in the third set and only needed to win that leg to make Prime Man a happy return. And then Dmitry Gorbanov has just gone off like a man possessed, as Prime Man said, for approximately about 4 minutes of his whole darting career. And it's cost Prime Man a pretty penny. But we'll move on. They're the type of things we enjoy, and we'll move on.
Yeah. Jason Lowe, good luck to him in the next round. Plays Michael Smith. He's going to need it, to be honest. He didn't put in a vintage performance there, but still enough to see off Gorbanov. Anyway, won't dwell on it. Yeah, Matthew Edgar. We've spoken a few times about Edgar. He's got a lot of fans here on YouTube. He's a very popular player for being so open with his social media presence. He kind of has generated a bit of a fan base that belies his actual achievements in the game. He's not really done a lot, to be honest. But this was a really nice moment for him, winning 3-0 against Kaivan Norvin. The game was priced as a bit of a coin toss, but really, Edgar, his finishing made all the difference. He was 9 out of 12 on his doubles, 75%. I mean, you're not going to see much better than that in any stage of this tournament. Kaivan Norvin, by contrast, 1 out of 11 on his doubles. And that was the difference between two players that weren't scoring particularly well, but Edgar just looked really confident on his finishing, and he grew in confidence as the game went on. So, really nice moment for him to get that first win. It was thoroughly deserved. As for Kaivan Norvin, I think he may be one of these players that's sort of going to struggle to keep hold of his tour card, to be honest. He really is going to need an upturn in his form if he's going to remain on the tour, which is, you'd never want to see that, but just the standard is just going up so much. If you're hitting a bad patch like he is, you're kind of in trouble. Matthew Edgar plays Mensur Suljovic in the next round. Mensur, another seed that you wouldn't be totally opposed to be playing. Not had his best year by any stretch. So wouldn't be without a hope in that one, Edgar. But he will have to probably improve again, to be honest, to beat Mensur. But good luck to him. And then a cracker to finish the afternoon session. Vincent van der Voort versus Ron Mullenkamp. We said this could be tight the way Mullenkamp had played against Kirchner in round 1. Sure enough, Mullenkamp, despite being an underdog, went out and won the first 2 sets. Was quite a clear favourite to get the job done, but Vincent kind of woke up. This match pivoted on the third set. It was 1-1 in the third set, and Mullenkamp missed a couple of darts to go 2-1 up and move a leg away. Vincent, as I say, kind of woke up when he won that third set. It went to the 5th set, went 2 legs apiece. Van der Voort had the throw, and that proved decisive. So a little bit of a scare for Van der Voort, but these two are great friends, and they had a bit of a laugh after the game. I think Mullenkamp looks visibly disappointed. He knows he probably should have won the match, but there we are. Vincent managed to sneak his way through there, and he'll be there after Christmas. Moving on to the evening session, it's been a very short evening session. One of the earliest finishes ever at the Ali Pali at this stage of the tournament, because we had the postponement through Clearmaker's positive COVID test, so that game was postponed. And there was actually a little bit of a carry on as the days progressed. It's became clear that Josh Payne, who was first reserve should anybody fall ill with COVID, has been unable to take his place because someone he has been in close contact with has tested positive for coronavirus. So Josh Payne is also unable to step in, and that is why the bye was awarded to Carillison. So I believe Josh Payne was informed last night that he could participate, and then for one reason or another, he hasn't been able to take that spot, presumably with it losing the £7,500 first round loser fee. So quite an expensive contact with somebody there. But ultimately, just feel really sorry for Claymaker, who I thought was going to, have a really good chance of winning that first round, and then causing Danny Noppert problems in round 2. Yeah. As it is, can't really see Carillison doing much against Noppert. I think he'll be way out of his depth, but maybe wrong.
Another Pine Man 3-0, I imagine. Noppert.
Yeah, quite possibly, but I think it'll be very short, to be honest. I think it'd be probably 2s on. Yeah, so going on, we've had 3 matches this evening. Now, I put up Ryan Meikle on our video yesterday, and I thought he had a good chance at odds against. As it was, he was beaten 3-0 by Keegan Brown. 2 things to take away from this match. One, Keegan Brown was excellent, really, really good. And really good for all the problems we talked about he's had this year with his NHS work and not being able to practice, it looks like he's been able to come to this tournament with no weight on his shoulders. Yep, often Often we see Keegan Brown playing against a big seed and, having a bit of a battle. But here, he obviously fancied his chances. He played very well. As you say, finished exceptionally well. That ultimately was the difference between the two. Meikle actually averaged 3 or 4 points higher than Brown across the match. So that shows how tight the match was. It was never really a 3-0, to be honest.
Yeah.
He missed darts to win a lot of legs. And Brown, every time he got the chance to step in, he finished. And that's what you've got to do. And fair play to him. No complaints. Meikle can come again and again. He's definitely a man on the rise. Talking of Dublin being costly, Jeffrey Deswan.
We predicted this.
You will not see anybody lose a game 3-0 hitting that many 180s for a long time. 9 180s in a 3-0 defeat. And if ever Bobby George's sentiment of trebles for sure, doubles for door was ever relevant, it's Jeffrey Deswan. He can hit that treble 20 bed till the cows come home. If Jeffrey Deswan could get his finishing up to about 50%, he would be a genuine runner in every PDC tournament because of his scoring power. This man can reel off 180s like no one's business. But one, his finishing was nowhere near good enough. And two, he ran into a man in superb form, Ryan Searle. I thought this was a really impressive performance, as impressive as anyone we've seen. I'm happy to say that, because when you're in a game with someone who's scoring so relentlessly, it's very easy to have a dip yourself or go into a mindset of, he's always going to hit the big score. He's always going to leave a finish. I've got to take this finish out. Searle was just coming up to the board, clearing up whatever he had every time.
Good on tops again. Good on tops. Yeah.
Every time Jeffrey opened the door in a leg on Searle's throw, Searle just slammed it in his face with a nice 2-dart, 3-dart combination. Really impressive. And I think he's got quite a winnable round 3 game after Christmas. I seem to remember thinking that he had a decent chance. I think he might be the winner of Ian White versus Kim Hybrex. He won't be. He's a very quietly, politely spoken man, Ryan Searle, and he said after the game, they're good players. I'm just pleased to get to that stage. I can't believe that he really thinks that. He must fancy his chances in that game quietly, because he's playing as good as we've seen Ian White or Kim Hybrex play at any point. We talked about Hybrex yesterday. He had a very comfortable match against Juan.
Practice session, yeah.
If he did get past Ian White, there's no way he would have it that comfortable against Searle. And same goes for Ian White. Ian White, I'm inclined to say, would come into the game against Searle, and I think it would be probably priced around 10 to 11 either way, maybe with a slight leaning towards Ian White, at which point you would have to be looking seriously at Ryan Searle on the form. You really would. And I know you put him up at 25 to 1 for this quarter. I think that is looking like fantastic value.
Yeah, well, it was about time that I got something right. We've done about 11 videos, and this is the first thing I've even got remotely right, because I said Jeffrey cannot double, and so it transpired. And Ryan Searle, just like you say, solid, was good on the double tops. I mean, to be honest, Searle, the opening leg of the game, through first, shouldn't have even won that first leg. Mm-hmm. Jeffrey was, I think it was like a 25-dart hold or something ridiculous.
I think he missed 7 or 8 at a double, didn't he, Jeffrey?
Yeah, Searle opened with like a 49 and this, that, and the other, and Jeffrey put a couple of scores in, and Searle just took out the double top. I think it was I think it might have even been 100 or a 120 type of checkout, and then that was the way the game went. Really, he had a bit of James Wade about it, to be honest. Any opening, and he was taking out combinations from 79 up to 121, that kind of region. He was taking them out. There were some legs where Jeffrey absolutely ran away with it, with his scoring, and Jeffrey was checking out on his throw, and Searle was still way back on 200, but just kept chipping away. I mean, Jeffrey, with a performance like that, he can count himself unlucky not to have won a set, for God's sake. But this has happened to Jeffrey before. We spoke about him against Rob Cross in the first round 2 years ago, averaged 106 or something and didn't win.
There's a reason. Sorry to interrupt. There's a reason why I used to put Jeffrey Deswan up for every tournament as a great value price, because he was priced around 50, 66. And you just know that he's got the game to compete with anybody, but his doubles have just completely deserted him in the last year or so. And he really has to work on that, or he's going to be a complete waste of talent, Jeffrey Deswan. He has to do something. Yeah, he's got time. He's got time, but don't forget, he originally had a breakthrough. We talked about this in the preview. He had his breakthrough. He went off the scene. He came back on the scene. He's now going off the scene again. He's going the wrong way. He needs to address it. He needs to address it over January for me.
And the final game of the evening session was Johnny Clayton against Henderson. I predicted a Clayton 3-0 win. We didn't quite get there, but it was comfortable for Clayton, to be honest. And even the esteemed commentators have obviously been watching our videos, Pyman, because they were taking on board our comments regarding Henderson's weight loss, which we have been massively disappointed with.
Yeah, I think, there's nobody more qualified to talk about weight loss than John Part, and he was quite right in what he said. It's just echoes what we've said, to be honest, that when you lose a lot of weight quickly, as John Henderson has lost about 4.5 stone in quite a quick period of time. Now, if you had quite a solid stance, if you had a Paul Lim style stance where the only thing that moves is your forearm, then it's not going to really cause you an issue. But someone who's rocking, Henderson is very reliant on weight distribution from his back foot to his front foot. So to lose 4 stone, to lose 60 pounds or whatever he's lost, and then you're expecting to distribute that weight across a rock. I mean, it's not the most scientifically sound process anyway, but to then make a massive change to yourself, it's bound to have an impact. For what it's worth, John Henderson actually, bizarrely, in this game, just when he looked dead and buried, and it's fair to say you put the 3-0 up yesterday in this game, the 3-0 looked absolutely weighed in, so typically it went wrong. But, Henderson looked dead and buried, and then he just started playing for a set and a half, finding his big finishes, finding his scoring, and he actually missed 3 darts to make it 2-2. For what it's worth, I still think Johnny Clayton would have got over the line if it had gone to a 5th set. You never really felt like he was panicking too much. And Clayton's finishing, I remember a 140 checkout in particular. He looked in decent nick, Clayton, and that's a good oil-up game for him. That he was never really under too much pressure, but he did have to start finding his better form towards the end of it. So that'll stand him in good stead for a potential meeting with Joe Cullen.
Yeah, Cullen or Wayne Jones, but yeah, probably Cullen. So yeah, but he's in the Van Gerwen section of the draw, Clayton, and he usually gets beat by him. But anyway, that concludes our look at day 6. We're going to have a look forward to day 7. Yeah, and as said on the previous video, Pyman, there's only 4 games on Monday. I can't really work it out because they're back to 8 games on Tuesday and Wednesday. It's a bit strange, but anyway. So yeah, there's four games on Tuesday. They're all crackers. They're all round 2 games now. So the big boys are coming out to play, and the main big boy we will see tomorrow is Gerwyn Price, one of my picks for the tournament. He takes on Jamie Lewis. Now, what I would say here is Gerwyn Price is the shortest price of any player taking part tomorrow. He's 1-6 to beat Jamie Lewis. It was only a couple of months ago when Jamie Lewis was basically retired from darts. But yeah, Gerwyn Price 1-6. I think that's a little bit short. If Jamie Lewis can play like he did in the last 3 sets in his first round game against Luke Humphries, Woodhouse, he's got a decent chance to take at least a set here. Gerwyn Price is 11-10 to win 3-0 tomorrow. I think that's too short, to be honest with you. So I would either be backing Price to win 3-1 at 11-4 or Jamie Lewis on the handicap plus 2.5, which is odds on, but that just backs up the fact that I think Jamie Lewis will take at least 1 set off Gerwyn Price tomorrow. That's just my opinion.
Well, let's just what you've got to remember about these second round matches, this is the first game of the tournament for Gerwyn Price, whereas Jamie Lewis has already had that game to settle in. And if we just take a look at the second round games, it's quite interesting, the ones that we've already had. Merv Kim, for example, against Max Hopp. Merv always in control, but won it 3-1. Van Gerwen yesterday, always in control, but won it 3-1 against Ryan Murray. Jose, again, had to scrap for it. Johnny Clayton had to lost a set against Henderson. Clearly, once you've played a game on that stage, it does give you an advantage in terms of settling in, not panicking. You can make a game of it because you're more comfortable. And there's no guarantee that Gerwyn Price is going to, we all know it's 11-10 because if Gerwyn Price turns up and plays his best game, he'll have simply far too much for Jamie Lewis. But Gerwyn Price has not got a great record at the Ali Pali. I know he's a completely different player now, but he's bound to be nervous tomorrow. He knows that a lot of players in that half of the draw are willing him to get knocked out. He is the danger man now. He's the man to beat in that half of the draw. There will be some form of nerves. I'm not having it. I don't care how many things he's won. Even Van Gerwen gets nervous. We've seen that a lot the last year. They're only human, these guys. Gerwyn Price knows he's got a great chance of winning this tournament. I think you're right there. I think I certainly wouldn't be with the 3-0. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. but I definitely, if I was looking for an angle in, would be looking more towards the 3-1, maybe even the 3-2 at a much bigger price. But I think 3-1's probably the way to go if you were going into that game. Looking at, you've got 3 other games, and as you say, they're all really good games, and we're going to get this more and more now as we go on. The quality rises, and it's a lot more interesting to try and pick angles into these games. The opener of tomorrow evening, Krzysztof Ratajski's first game, he plays Ryan Joyce. Ryan Joyce, let's remember, a man who was quite lucky to get through, survive 5 match starts against Karel Sedlacek.
Yeah, thanks.
So this could have been a very different game, but as it is, Ryan Joyce is someone who's got experience of going deep in this tournament, so he's unlikely to be ruffled by that experience that he had. He knows that you've got to dodge a few bullets in this kind of tournament, and he's dodged his fair share. So he can come out there against Ratajski, knowing that he's an underdog, knowing that he's quite lucky to be there in a way. He could have easily been at home by now watching on the television. And if Ryan Joyce can relax into this game and play how we know he can, then this will be a lot tighter than Ratajski would certainly be hoping for. I don't know if you've got the prices in front of you. I think he's about a 2-1 shot, Joyce. Yeah,
Ratajski's 4-9 and Joyce is available at 2-1. I think Ratajski will get through this, but if Joyce can put his A game in, and he didn't put his A game in the first round, if he can maybe get a Ratajski. But as we said about Ratajski, he's just so solid and straight down the line kind of thing, and I can just see Ratajski maybe edging that, possibly a 3-2 kind of game. The second game tomorrow evening is Ian White against Kim Huybrechts. Now, we mentioned Kim Huybrechts on our previous video. He played on Saturday against the Chinese qualifier and had a very good average. I think the second best of the tournament so far, only behind Van Gerwen. That looked to us like a bit of a practice session for Kim. He was never really in any danger, although it was an impressive average. He's going to be up against a very different test against Ian White, and it's certainly a game that we'll be having a close eye on because the winner takes on Ryan Searle.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on in what you say there about that game. Kim Huybrechts, all the stats suggest that he's getting back to near his best. And Ian White, we know about his problems that he's had in converting his floor form. It's very well documented to the big stage. A lot of hopes that Ian White would use the lack of crowds to suddenly make this emergence on the TV events, but it hasn't really happened for Diamond. We all know what a good player he is on his day, but so many of these guys now, pretty much anyone that's in round 2 has got the game if they turn up to cause anyone problems. So I think you can legitimately look at these favourites. You can look at Ratajski, you can look at White, and you can pick a few chinks in their armour. And I think purely on price, I would rather be with Joyce at 2-1 than Huybrechts at around 7-5, 8-5, because I think personally they're both going to have to play to somewhere near their best to win. But I think there are signs that they can do that. And I think I would rather take the 2-1 than the 7-5 personally. I think Ian White.
Sure about that.
Yeah,
I would probably have the opposite opinion, to be honest. I think probably.
It doesn't do any harm because it means one of us will be right for once. But I mean, look, the point I'm actually making is, I could legitimately say to you, I could not put anyone off Huybrechts or Joyce. I think they're 2 games where your second favourite has a very lively chance of getting an upset. Yes, Ratajski and White are worthy favourites. They're more proven in closing games out. They're probably more consistent players, but they're both beatable as well. Ratajski, he's like, a very popular player with people because he's so solid, but he's not spectacular enough for me. He has occasional flashes of brilliance, but he's not going to go and win this tournament, unfortunately, because he hasn't got that sort of like X factor to his game. And therefore, you can't be scared to oppose those kind of players, I don't think. So I'm going to put up Joyce there. I am going to put Joyce up 2-1.
I'd rather be with Kim at about 6-4.
Fair enough. I'm gonna give Kim a lively chance, but Joyce would be my selection out of those 2 games. But 2 very good games, could both go 5 sets, so you might want to have a look at the set market as well. It could be good battles on the cards tomorrow.
What do you make of the final game, the German derby, Pyman? I know you're a big fan of Gabriel Clemens, who'll be his first appearance.
I've definitely got a bit of bias leaning towards Gabe Clemens, who is someone that I put in a category with 3 or 4 other players of he has elements to his game that hint to me he could become one of the world's top 10 players. But he's got work to do. He has got work to do. Unfortunately, he's not shown it consistently enough just yet. But he's only really made it to the top table of darts this year. So he's very much a work in progress, Gabe Clemens. What he does have, the element of his game that I'm talking about is, of course, his power scoring. If you've never seen Gabe Clemens play, he's a 180 merchant along the lines of Jeffrey Deswan, but his finishing is a little more reliable than Jeffrey, or certainly has been in recent months. He's a very capable combination finisher. You leave him on, any finish between 130 and 160 a couple of times in a game, and he'll take one out, and normally at a good time in a match. He's one of these players that, when he's at a big price against one of the super favourites, one of the Price Van Gerwens, I always get a bit, start looking at it thinking, oh, Gabe Clemens, he could beat him, but he hasn't quite done that enough yet. But I think he's a real danger man in this tournament. I like Nico Kurz. I don't think he showed the best of himself. I've already spoken in previous videos about how these two will have played each other a number of times in Germany, so he could have that comfort factor. But I couldn't be opposing Clemens, to be honest, and I think Clemens is a man to watch.
Yeah, Clemens is odds on for that game. Is about what I think is about 1-2-3 ish. So yeah,
180 lines could be a weigh in for that match if someone was wanting a weigh in, because they can both score for fun, these two.
Yeah, well, the total 180s in that game is set at 6.5. So 7, it's between them, and you're a winner. I mean, that might be a look.
Would not be surprised if that landed quite comfortably, to be honest.
Yeah, that could be a look at even money. So so there's our little predictions for Monday's action with the 4 games on Monday. A couple of bets that you might want to be taking notice of or not there. And we'll hopefully be back with you in the coming days. And like I say, there's 8 games on Tuesday, 8 games on Wednesday. Christmas Eve is a blank day, so we're going to put a bit of a review, kind of first round review video up there. So if you've got any topics you want us to cover in our Christmas Eve special, please let us know. We'll see you soon. Cheers.
Cheers.